Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Long Gone Loser Rock Show, and today we're going to talk about one of my favourite actresses of all time, Jayne Mansfield.
Do you really think so?
I grew up loving movies, absolutely obsessed with them, and to this day I still love movies. I watch endless movies and I've seen so many over the years. Growing up, I just became obsessed with film. And one of those actresses that really caught my eye was Jayne Mansfield. I was captivated by her bizarre, interesting, yet, I don't know how you would say it, very unique life. The thing with Jayne Mansfield that made her just so interesting to me was the fact that she wound up hanging out with Anton LaVey from the Church of Satan. Her life was cut short at 34 in a tragic car accident. She just had something about her that her life just seemed way more interesting to me, and I just became fixated on Jayne Mansfield. I started reading all the books that I could find, I started watching all the movies that I could find, and over the years I've collected a bunch of Jayne Mansfield things just because I've always found her really interesting. I think my fascination with Jayne Mansfield began when I saw the movie The Girl Can't Help It. The Girl Can't Help It is a hilarious movie. I love it. The soundtrack is awesome. I love this movie so much. You've got like Gene Vincent, you've got Fats Domino, you've got the Platters, you've got Little Richard, etc., etc. It is just such a good movie. I've got it on DVD, which you can see here. There's the back of it. If you've never seen this movie, I highly recommend checking it out. It is pretty funny, but also the soundtrack sells it. It is such a good film in that regard. I highly recommend checking this one out. I've also got another DVD around here somewhere called The Fat Spy. I've also got The Weird World of Jayne Mansfield, which is now available on Blu-ray. So if that's something that interests you, definitely go out and get yourself a copy of that. I don't have it on Blu-ray. I've got it on VHS. So I'm probably going to have to order the Blu-ray as well. Very interesting woman and very interesting life, So I'm going to just go through some things here regarding Jayne Mansfield that I have. So let's talk about the records. Jayne Mansfield did record some records. Obviously, she wasn't alive when these particular records came out, but these are ones that I found. The first one I want to show is this awesome picture disc I found in a bargain bin. Look at that. How awesome does that look? And there's the back with the track listing there. So cool. I found this one in a bargain bin as well. It's Jayne Mansfield live in Las Vegas. So here she does a bunch of different songs, and although someone did tell me once that this wasn't even her, but whatever. I really like it, and I don't believe that story for a second because it sounds like Jayne, But yeah, like this is another one I found in a bargain bin. Really cool record. So yeah. So growing up, I was always on the lookout for books and everything like that to do with Jayne Mansfield, and I bought this one from a store called Factotum Books in Adelaide. They used to have lots of weird and wonderful books, a lot of movie stuff, a lot of serial killer stuff, a lot of true crime stuff, just whatever was odd. And this is one of the books that they had. And I bought this immediately. I think it was like $20. And this book is so cool, and it's just filled with tons and tons of photos and information of Jayne, as you can see here. Lots of different snapshots. I just became fixated on Jayne Mansfield, and I do like Mamie Van Der Ent. I do like Marilyn Monroe. I enjoy their films, especially Mamie Van Der Ent. She did some really good movies, and I should do a video on her and her films one day, but today's Jayne Mansfield Day. But this book is really cool. I believe it sells for a fair bit of money now or something like that, which is kind of weird to me, but I guess there are collectors out there who collect this sort of stuff, besides me. And so, I'd grab any book that's got Jayne Mansfield on it or in it. So, and I've got the Hollywood Babylon book around here. She's on the cover of that, but I don't know where that book is. And I was looking for it before, and I don't know where Hollywood Babylon is, which is really annoying because it should be around here somewhere. But I've got a lot of books, but yeah, this one, Sex Bomb, is a really good book, and if you can find it, I highly recommend picking it up. Here's some other books I got. I found this one in a secondhand bookstore, which has got "The Bust with the Lust for Stardom" is the quote on the back, which is pretty funny. But this is the first time I ever found out about the Anton LaVey connection, because there is a photo in here, in this little book, of her with Anton LaVey, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And so that's the first time I heard about it, was from this book. There you go. Diamonds to Dust, the true story of the original tabloid blonde. This is an interesting book. And this guy, I think, has written a couple of books on Jayne Mansfield, but this is the only one that I've got. But yeah, this one's cool. It's a quick read. It's not a very thick book, but you know, it's got some photos in there that aren't in the other books, which is pretty cool. So yeah, interesting stories in this one as well. Affectionately, Jayne Mansfield. This is another great one. So it's a pretty thick book. There's a lot in here to consume, and it's just a really cool book. I really like this one. I'm glad I picked it up. Again, this one has tons of photos in here that I haven't seen in the other books, which is really cool. And so yeah, just lots of interesting stuff in here. So if you are a Jayne aficionado, I highly recommend this book too. This is the latest one that I've got of hers, but I haven't actually read this one yet, but I have picked it up and it's in my TBR pile, my to be read pile, which seems to be growing and getting bigger and bigger every day, because I just buy books when I see them, and then hopefully I'll find the time to read them. So this one is coming up on the read list. So yeah, this one is actually a lot of writing and not as many photos. So it is a very heavy book in that regard. Like you can see here, there's a lot to get through, but it seems pretty in depth. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot in here that I don't already know about Jayne Mansfield. So I'm really looking forward to getting stuck into this book. Cool picture of her on the front. The girl couldn't help it. So this book is really interesting, and this is where the whole satanic thing came into it. And it's a book that was actually done called California Infernal, and it's basically a ton of photos regarding Jayne and Anton LaVey, plus other stuff, like lots of photos of Anton LaVey just on his own, lots of photos of Anton sitting in a chair. But you know, the whole thing with him and Jayne is just so fascinating to me. Like, I'm not sure what her reasoning is for wanting to get involved with the Church of Satan, because it seems like the story changes from book to book. But I get the feeling maybe she just liked the fact that he was unique and bizarre and different. You know, I get the feeling maybe that's what she was attracted to more than anything. This is an interesting book with some really nice photos of Jayne in it. So yeah, it's available now. You can get it on Amazon and stuff like that. It's interesting for Jayne fans, but I just am intrigued in how she got involved in all this stuff and why she got involved in it. You know, her life just seemed like a huge roller coaster of you know, emotion and trouble and good times and bad times and stuff. So I'm not exactly sure what drew her to Anton LaVey, but yeah, it's just cool to see this book and see all these photos together in one place. I found this book in like Lakes Entrance or something like that. You know, I'm just covering up her breasts so that nobody complains on YouTube. But this is a pictorial history of striptease, and I remember picking it up because it was like $2 or $3. And flicking through it, I saw this photo of Jayne in the pool with all the blow-up Jaynes. Now, those blow-up dolls I've heard sell for such stupid amounts of money, and a friend of mine, Chris, said that he actually had the chance to buy one time and he didn't do it. And he regrets it, as I would too, because I've always wanted one of those things. I doubt any of these things made it to Australia. If you see what I'm talking about there, all these little floatable Jaynes that are in the pool there. I don't know if this was like something that you could just buy everywhere, but yeah, it's pretty cool. I'd love to have one, but I don't have one. But yeah, I found it in this book. There's the back of it. I can at least show you that. Now, because we like talking about rock music on this channel, I'm going to go into the fact that the Flamin' Groovies do a killer version of The Girl Can't Help It. Yes, the title track from the movie that I spoke about before. And this is really cool. So if you don't have this album, you should. It's called Super Snaz, which is cool because there is a Japanese band called Super Snaz, and they're amazing, and you should check them out as well. Speaking of Japanese bands, the legendary 5678s have done a song called I Walk Like Jayne Mansfield.
Jayne Mansfield は彼女かなり体も異常だと思うし、あれがなんか素敵っていうよりもちょっと異常なほどグラマラスでしょ。で作ってるじゃない。フェイクな体っていうのがすごい気持ち悪くて好きかもしれないっていうのと、日本人じゃあんなグラマーいないし、すごいアメリカ臭いっていうのがバタ臭くて好きっていうのがあって、で彼女は死に方も結構強烈。首が切れて死んじゃったんですよ。
I bought this from the Spiral Objective mail order in Adelaide, and the reason I bought it was because the song was called I Walk Like Jayne Mansfield. Now, being a fan, I had to have this song. So this came out in sometime like in the early 90s, and I bought it then. So I looked in the Spiral Adjective catalogue. I saw the fact that it was called I Walk Like Jayne Mansfield. I didn't know who the 5, 6, 7, 8s were, but I immediately added it to my list and bought it. Now, when it came in, I chucked it on. I fell in love with the song instantly. I love the 5, 6, 7, 8s, as probably we all do, and anyone who watches this would love them too. They're just amazing. And apparently they walk like Jayne Mansfield. This record also introduced me to Estrus Records, which is, one of my favorite garage rock labels from, forever. And once I heard this single, I just became absolutely obsessed and bought everything that Estrus was releasing. And to this day, I do the same thing. I buy every Estrus release that I can find because I love that label. But if it wasn't for this song, I probably would have slept on that label for a long time. But yeah, thank you to the 5, 6, 7, 8s for introducing me to Estrus Records. And thank you to Jayne Mansfield, I guess, for introducing me to the 5, 6, 7, 8s. So in 2009, I headed to the USA to visit some friends. And while I was over there, I ended up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania to see my friend Maddie. So when I went to visit Madeline, she said to me, hey, what sort of things do you want to see? I told her that I wanted to go record shopping, and I also wanted to go and see Jayne Mansfield's grave, and was it doable? So she looked it up for me and she said, hey, look, I can take you there. That's no problem at all. And I was like, oh my God. So we jumped in the car and we headed to Pen Argyl. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but that's where we headed. And we went to Fairview Cemetery, which is where Jayne is buried. You can't miss her tombstone. In fact, we pulled in, and as soon as we pulled in, I saw it there, and I was just like, oh my God, like that just stands out. So we pulled over and we got out and we paid our respects.
We're in Fairview Cemetery in Pen Argyl, Pennsylvania. Am I saying that correctly?
I think so.
And we have found Miss Mansfield's grave.
As you can see here in this video footage, Jayne's grave looks absolutely beautiful. It's a big giant love heart because, as we all know, Jayne loved the idea of love. And everything in her pink palace was all love hearts and whatever. So it's cool to see her grave is like this as well. It's a pretty tall grave. I mean, it's almost as tall as me. It's just a big grave site, you know what I mean? Like, it stood out in the graveyard, like it was huge, like it stuck out, you know what I mean? Like, you couldn't miss it if you tried. It was cool of Maddie to take me there. I really appreciate the fact that she drove me to see the final resting place of Jayne Mansfield. And when I'm in Hollywood, I always make sure I check out Jayne Mansfield's star and go pay my respects there as well. Kind of a geeky thing to do, but it has to be done. That's on Hollywood Boulevard. And pretty much, if you just walk out of the Hollywood and Vine train station, turn left and walk a little bit, you're going to step right over it. Thank you very much for watching the Long Gone Loser Rock Show once again. I'll see you again in the next video, but until then, take care of each other and look out for yourselves. All right? www.longgoneloser.com plus @longgoneloser on Instagram. Cheers, guys. Have the best day ever.